Ladies and gentlemen, friends from Hungary and from Serbia and from Russia, standing before you today as someone who was born neither in Serbia nor in Hungary but in France, I believe that sometimes a foreigner is the one who can see the essence more clearly, because they do not look through the lens of habit or personal memory, but with the heart of truth. And the truth I have seen, living among you for now 2 decades, is that the path of Hungarian-Serbian friendship is one of the most remarkable journeys in the recent history of Europe. A path that emerged from conflict and mistrust, from the blood-stained pages of history, and reached a place of cooperation and brotherhood. The two nations chose reconciliation over hatred. That path begins deep in the past, in the Balkans and in Pannonia, regions where empires faithfully clashed spears, where throughout history the cross and the sword, faith and power, borders and oath intertwined. The Serbs and Hungarians did not live on opposite sides of the world. They shared everything, from battlefields to tables, from borders to sanctuaries. Within that historical mosaic, the two cultures have been closely intertwined. Belgrade, for example, now the Serbian capital, as you know, was once also a Hungarian city. It first became part of Serbia in the 13th century, when King Dragutin, a Serbian ruler and Hungarian son-in-law, was granted Belgrade to govern as a sign of political alliance. That gesture was more than just a diplomatic move. It was the root of Serbian-Hungarian bond. Later, during the time of Serbian despot Stefan Lazarević, Belgrade became both the capital and a bastion of Christianity. Fortified, renewed, and improved, it served as a shield not only for Serbia, but also for Hungary, a fortress at the gateway of Europe, which for a long time defended not only the south, but also the north from the Turks. That bond continued to deepen in the 15th century, embodied in the figure of John Unhjadi. I think you know who he is. But in Serbian epic poetry, he is well known too. His name is Sibinjanin Janko, a nobleman of the Hungarian crown, a hero in both Serbian and Hungarian traditional poems. He was the one who led the defense of Belgrade in 1456, standing at the front line of European resistance against the Ottomans. In one man, one flag, but two nations. His glory belongs to our shared memory. Today, this hero exists in both Serbian and Hungarian remembrance as the guardian of Belgrade, the defender of Christianity, the proof that one hero can be named ours in more than one language, with no nation losing any of its pride. That is a symbol that tells us we do not need to share the same roots in order to have a common future. Today, in Belgrade, in Zemun, it's a part of Belgrade, we have a tower, the Gardoš Tower, which has stood like a guard above Zemun for decades. It was built by the Hungarian authorities in 1896 to commemorate the 1000-year anniversary of their ruling in the region. It is one of the 7 architectural monuments that symbolically represent the historical unification of the 7 tribes and the founding of the Hungarian statehood. They were built across the territory of the former empire, 2 in Hungary, 2 in what today is Slovakia, 1 in Ukraine, 1 in Romania, and the 7th in Serbia. But guess what? Only Serbia has preserved its tower. Because the Serbian people do not destroy monuments. They keep them. They preserve them. They do not forget history. They seek meaning in it. The Gardoš Tower is not merely a monument of a former empire. this tower stands as a symbol of shared history, but also as a foundation for a common future. The 20th century was the century of the greatest tragedies in human history. The two world wars did not only rewrite the map of Europe, they left deep, bloody scars on both the Serbian and Hungarian people. And then, in more recent times, after the atrocities of the 20th century, something happened that once seemed impossible to many. At the head of Serbia and Hungary, new leaders came. The leaders who understood that history was not there to condemn us, but to teach us. Viktor Orban and Aleksandar Vučić, men of different origin, but of the same vision. Representatives of two nations who had often stood on opposite sides throughout history, but who now stand shoulder to shoulder. They built a bridge, not with words, it's too easy, but with actions. Today, Hungary is a strategic, political and economic partner to Serbia. The bond between the two countries is becoming stronger and stronger. The geographical distance is shrinking. A high-speed rail line, Belgrade-Budapest, is being built, the first project of that scale in this part of Europe. Hungary stores Serbian gas in its facilities, while Serbia assists Hungary in the much-needed energy diversification. Hungary is currently Serbia's most supportive ally in Brussels. It supports the European Union's enlargement in favor of Serbia and Western Balkans at all. We are developing neighborly relations based on the culture of tolerance and friendship. In Vojvodina, the Hungarian minority is not a source of divisions or differences, but a bridge of cooperation. Supported by both the Serbian state and their kin state, Hungary, the Hungarians of Vojvodina demonstrate that it is possible to live as one among one's own, both in Serbia and in Hungary. Today, before our eyes, the foundations upon which Europe was built are being changed. Less to say, they are not only being altered by wars and sanctions, but also by invisible internal blows. Crisis of identity, crisis of values, and crisis of meaning. Europe, which once stood firmly on the pillars of family, faith, culture, and community, today is increasingly breaking under the pressure of imposed woke ideology, an ideology that knows no border, but does not recognize tradition. In this ideology, genders disappear, nations disappear, traditional families disappear, and with them, the very human being, as we have known it, also disappears. Woke ideology does not bring freedom but confusion. It does not bring equality but chaos. It does not bring progress but cultural collapse. At the same time, Europe faces a great wave of migrations, not the ones that are natural and controlled, but orchestrated and massive. In such times, there are people who reject the imposed notion that traditional values must vanish for a country to be modern. These people refuse to lose themselves and their identity, because Europe cannot exist without Europeans who know who they are, where they come from, and most importantly, maybe, what they stand for. One of these people is Viktor Orban, a statesman who has not forgotten that his first duty is a duty towards his own people. A politician who understands that without roots, there can be no branches. His politics is determined, but not aggressive. Sovereign, but not isolated. He recognized that the geopolitical landscape is changing, that the era of sovereignists is coming, that there are leaders who no longer ask what Brussels or some distant power will say, but what their own people will say. that the voices of strong, family-oriented, patriotic values are returning. And within this return, Orban recognized an ally in President of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić. They are both patriots and know one thing, that there is no sovereignty of states without the courage of their leaders to defend it. That is why both fight like lions. That is why both are targeted by left liberal forces. Therefore, what we see today in Serbia and in Hungary, it is not just a partnership between the two countries. It is not just politics. It's a new hope. It is a model. It is an example. An alliance of those who have decided that they will write their own destiny and will not allow others to write it for them in their offices. From the Gardosh Tower in Zemun to a high-speed railway, from John Unhyadi to Alexander and Victor, from centuries of pain to alliance and respect, long live the friendship of Serbia and Hungary, and may our common struggle be relentless.